Hi everyone, can you hear me okay? Yeah? My name is Tom and I'm Staff Technical Program Manager at Back Market. So I'm not going to spend too much time to discuss about Back Market because my two fellow colleagues here did it yesterday, but essentially we're providing a refurbished device, an e-commerce platform providing a refurbished device as a solution to new and really playing our role on the circularity. And it's I'm really passionate about acting also towards that cause. Let's talk a little bit about program management. So you already raised your hand. Who would be able to explain what is a TPM, basically? Who knows about TPM? Okay, so 1/3 at least, okay. So essentially, you hire, at some point, the company grows at a stage where you have a lot of teams and your problems require a lot of transversal work to be resolved. And you need a little bit of a glue, a delivery glue, not an engineering one, but a delivery one. And that's exactly what the TPM is bringing to the table. So you start having dependencies, doing risk management and collaborating with a lot of stakeholders. So what brings me here? I've been the first TPM at Back Market, and honestly, it has been tough. It has been tough because we just arrived at that scale where there was those ambiguous problems that the organization, as it was set, didn't succeed to resolve. So you're appointed to resolve the most complex or ambiguous problems. You have to work with teams who don't know the role. Likely some person who would be scared of you taking out their scopes. And most engineers also maybe in the room might misunderstand the role or even not accept the practices of that role. So basically it's a lot of weight. And so I've gone through that for 2 years and arrived at a certain times where we are hiring more TPMs. So I guess there is some success in the end. And this is the journey I'd like to discuss with you. And through the format of practical tips that I feel are useful, likely maybe to you as well. So as a good TPM, I've broken down my scope, broken down the talks into 5 categories. The first one would be first about ourselves as individuals, so being mindful about ourselves. Then about the people around us and the adaptability that is required to collaborate with everyone. Then we're going to talk about the communication. So basically, what's the bridge between the individual and the people? Then we'll talk about the strategy, a little bit of thinking around how to put these things together. And last part about being creative and, the little bit of salt and pepper that makes everything works. So let's start about being mindful about ourselves. And I'll come up with for a few contexts, when I joined Back Market, I was tasked to optimize a group of people that we call the Fellowship of the Architecture, or basically an architecture committee composed of staff engineers, front-end, back-end, infrastructure, a lot of skills that I didn't know about. And I had the opportunity to basically collaborate with them and learn from them. I was really happy about that. And today it turned out to be that the staff community, and they are even extending the community in France with Staff 42. And so I'll start with this quote saying, as leaders, we may teach what we know, but we reproduce who we are. So essentially what I take out of this is that we all have bias. We all have, personal things that we bring us at work every day. And that surfaces at some point, no matter what you're trying to change. So the first piece of being mindful about what we can give in the leadership helps fight a little bit against those things that you don't want to bring on the table but are your personal trait. So getting back on the leadership definition, I think leadership is about giving. So understanding what you can bring on the table and what will likely block you on the way. For example, regarding my skills, I would say it's writing, attention to details, negotiation influence. And I'm also stubborn. I produce too much content and I like criticizing. I don't know if it's because I'm French or just a human, but that's kind of a personal trait I'm trying to fight for every day. I think leadership is also about making a difference. So if you can find in your skills something unique that you can bring to others, likely people will follow you for your unique traits because you're expert on it. Regarding myself, I would say writing, because I spent 6 years at Amazon before. If you know a little bit the company, there is a strong writing culture, so I have some skill there. And negotiation and influence, maybe simply because I did a business background, so I likely spent more time interacting with people and ambiguous discussions than coding software myself. Also, yeah, I wanted to talk about those 2 points as well, is that the leadership can occur at any level. It's not because you're a staff that you can lead, but the junior can't. Any people can find their own unique trait, their own skills, and can also share to others. And there's also this cliche about leadership is about extrovert people. That's not true. You can inspire with your unique trait, whether it's good memory, perfect analytical skills. And I can tell you from my past experience that I've been super inspired by people likely talking very less in meeting, but anytime they take the mic, everybody listen to them because they have the brightest data on hand to illustrate a point. So there is another thing that is, to me, very important as a leader, is to be aware and have a vision. So likely as you go through time towards your vision and you take action through it, you should be able to step back and understand if this vision is the right one. Otherwise, you would just go like delivering, maybe jumping into the delivery, and oh, look at those milestones, reaching 1, 2, 3, and then you'd realize that you're heading towards the exit. Well, actually, you have a talk to finish. So, few tips on that. So, try to keep that pace of stepping back and achieving the vision. Few tips on that that works for me. Ask about the big problems. So, ask your manager what problems they're trying to solve. Ask your managers what problem they're trying to solve. And ultimately, if you understand the big picture, the big problems, you will be able to facilitate resolution of those into your own missions. Understand the perspective of the majority. Usually, there is a lot of surveys that are sent, a lot of data that are telling a lot of things. But ultimately, you need to understand what people think. Do they follow the direction of the company? Do they agree with the big ideas? And this will really help feed your strategy. Have some take that breath to catch up on. Also step back, request feedback, obviously, to make sure that you're stepping on the right direction. Something else would be about having a thoughtful direction. Nobody follows someone who doesn't know where he's heading to. And take action to accomplish this vision. You don't want talkative people who don't achieve what they're promising, basically. Some point about when you scale in your leadership, you must target excellence, because basically people will look at you. If you take this leadership position, people will mimic you. So for the things that you inspire them for, and it would be super important to keep that rating. It can be done by commitments. Say what you do what you say. And it can start with really easy thing. Be on time in meetings, deliver the analysis you said you would deliver in 7 days instead of 9. And these simple things can just build trust and demonstrate that you're in control of what you do. Be responsible and take actions, as I said, to fulfill the vision. Deliver the results. So likely as transversal folks, you are tasked to take on some big project and long-lasting programs or engineering problems that you're trying to solve, and you need to deliver those results. I don't think you can see a lot of leaders, very experienced leaders, thriving in environments where they're not able to prove that they've delivered something with their strategy. Once you're mindful about that, about what you can give, about what are the bad things you try to keep for yourself, the thing is about creating space, right? And this is where comes the second theme about people and adaptability. So essentially, to me, I believe it's understanding people. So asking a lot of questions to people. What's their problem? What do they like? How do they work? And ultimately, we will come up with information, personal ones, professional ones, and you'll be able to narrow it down to how can you use this information at the best of your collaboration with these people. I know that Emma stress out when they're needing to deliver unplanned work. So likely I will anticipate my request with Emma. I know that Bob likes to talk about personal life, and I usually stepping in a one-on-one, trying to be super effective with the agenda and jumping right on the work topic. You might prefer to talk a little bit about life for, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes, just because it's just the way people work. Something else about the bandwidth, very important to me, also because I'm supposed to be a force multiplier to the teams, is to understand that in the morning, people are fresh. At the end of the day, they have less energy. That's quite simple. And also they have a bandwidth. So they dedicate some time in meetings, they dedicate some time in discussions, in focus time, coffee break with their best colleague, lunchtime. And you have to know basically where to fit in, where it's the best, where can you take the best from these people, each people, to work with them. And bandwidth is limited. So likely, and I'm sure it's the case for most engineers, you have solicitation from everywhere. So you have to stand out in the quality of what you do, of your communication as well, to be able to, mark the spirits and try to get some room into that bandwidth. So also as an IC not embedded into a team, there is already existing circles of people. And once you jump in a program, you have to create those relationships. You have to create these experiences and socialize. And Annie said it yesterday, I believe. It's about capitalizing social points that you can then use, right? It's literally about that. Empathy, listen to others' problem. I would even go further. You want people to want to tell you their problems, and show humble interest in what others do. Be as helpful as a friend. So it's really, don't be shy to put your hands in the dirt, but I'm pretty sure in this audience, it's literally what you would do as a reflex. Show humble interest. And for me, that's super cool because I'm passionate about those technologies and the topics we're working in, and driven with very cool people towards a mission that we're all invested in. So that plays quite well for me. And people won't remember your title, honestly. You can be a director someday and be a baker the other day. I mean, it's rather how you treat people, so obviously really important to focus on the people. Your ideas will not be followed by all. When I started with the Fellowship of the Architecture, some people followed my ideas, some others don't, and a lot of people didn't even know I was there. And ultimately, people talk, word of mouth, and will help you scale basically, because if you have qualitative relationship with people, if you are listening to people, if you are conveying the right ideas, you will likely earn these social points and potentially convince the widest audience possible, right? Then comes the bridge between the individual and the people. And that's about the communication, literally. It's the foundational level of leadership. So what I've learned, it's that the communication that works the best is the one that hit the audience right. It's not like writing is the best or broadcasting is the best. It's literally about people again. So some of verbatims from my experience at Back Market of people saying, hey, what's the purpose of that meeting? I already have too many of them. I like the content of your training, but I would have rather read a good old document. Or I really like those recurring sync times so I can get my attention focused on the topic. So let me give you a few tips and tricks from my past experience as well on those mechanisms. In synchronous communication, what I think is really important is active listening. So if you're the senior person in the room, you must be the last to speak, because junior folks otherwise will not speak. They will just consider your words as the truth, whether you'd rather have the solution brought by them, right? And it's about asking the right question instead of putting a statement and a solution. It's about asking the question that lead the people to find the right answer at this level. Also, the body communicates more than you think. In business, we used to say that you can hear people smiling on the phone when you negotiate. And it's really about that. Even through a Zoom call, you have an attitude, you have a tone of voice, and you should really don't forget that.
On asynchronous, so my preferred way of communicating, because writing is consistent. I can write something and 1,000% will read exactly the same message. It's about optimizing people's time by putting some brain time and a few hours of work to have the best possible way of delivering a message. So to me, that scales a lot. Those few tips would be to name things, to be precise, state clear goals and contextualize. Sorry. So when I entered at Back Market, there was a lot of documentations that I had to go through, and I wasn't able to define whether it's a decision, whether it's a working document, is it a process, is it a deprecated process or an active one? I was a little bit lost about that. So if you can add 2-3 lines to just contextualize what the purpose of the doc is, what the audience is for, it's beneficial. Grammar matters. And if you can structure your content to have, the crisp and most important in the page and add appendix at the end, it's also a way to optimize this. About broadcasting, so this is something I realized arriving at Back Market, because we are still at a size of the company where there is those rituals in front of the entire company where you discuss. So writing didn't scale that much compared to this ritual. I would say that essentially you are in front of very cross-functional people: finance, marketing, product, non-technical, technical. So use very simple metaphors. People like stories. People like to get out of a meeting and really understand what we're talking about. So it really worked for me, and be different. Remember of this bandwidth that you need to fit in. Likely, a lot of people will have a lot of messages, but if you have simple words, like a train line, for example, to illustrate dependencies, then it will stick to your mind. So we used that for a program. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but it's about a transformation of their infrastructure Back Market from AWS to GCP, filling a void, And so we used the image of a shoe shop instead of to illustrate the data centers and the infrastructure we were about to change to the company. Picturing that the body would be Back Market basically, and the infrastructure team would carry it through shoes, and trying to keep that image and illustrate it that the business would still have to go, but we would have to change shoes while running the business, and it would cause some issues, obviously. A little part about strategy as well. So as I said, it's really important to have thoughtful actions, thoughtful strategy when you deliver things. So first thing that worked well for me as well is the contrast between goals and structural problems. So if you have those mechanisms to really understand what your company problems are, and I mean not problems that you can put in OKRs, like really structural problems, like for example, people struggle to hold their commitments, or your technical department is underrepresented across your company. This has been the case for in the past for Back Markets. This is not the time of goals. You can really answer with a straight and problem and a team dedicated to it, right? However, for example, heading towards a vision and in this program of migration of a cloud provider, for example, each time you achieve a goal that is planned with a milestone with different teams involved, you also contribute to having people hold their commitments. Maybe they fail to address that milestone, but it's not a big deal. At least they're trained to do it, and maybe later on they will be more trained and more effective at doing so. Or where you have this discussion about the shoes in front of the entire company, to advocating about this large-scale initiative that everyone understands, you contribute to solve the structural goals as well, that is having a technical department that is underrepresented. So it's literally, you will increase your impact and also scaling this leadership as well if you're able to address that. Then talking about change. So people like their habits, they like their routine. We say that usually it takes 90 days to ingest a change. Well, it's really the truth. And if you are able to be hermetic to that change and help others drive through that change, it's really a good asset as well. And for that, I'm going to talk about the boiling frog story. I don't know if anyone knows that one. It's not because I'm French, though. Also, don't reproduce this at home. It's just to illustrate a point, right? Respect animals, obviously. But so if you're trying to boil a frog by dropping it into a hot pot, basically, what's going to happen is that the frog, with a very quick move, will step out of the way because it's burning hot, right? However, if you put a frog into cold water and you increase the temperature progressively, the frog will start to be maybe feeling warm, then a little bit exhausted, and will end up boiled in the end. So it's going to be cooked, right? So it's literally about that. All those changes that, as a StaffPlus, engineers, program managers, whoever manage transversal initiatives, usually have very long-lasting problem. And you need to be actors of that change by leading people and really understanding why we're doing that. So be resilient, embrace that change. If there is an ambiguity or a problem that hasn't been able to be resolved throughout the organization and you've been tasked to do it, it's because there is such an ambiguity that you have to put some judgment on it rather than a process, right? So really, it's really important for me to illustrate that change, and always think that all those big changes are pragmatic decisions about your company. We're running businesses, so likely if you have transformational changes or cultural changes that are really important to drive, it's for good reason. And if you step back of that change, you're able to see the options and rather than facing it and being impacted by it. So that's the last part is a little bit of a conclusion, right? Being creative, I think, is really important. Basically, think of every workers who go every day at work, working 8 hours or something. They haven't. It's not like their passion, or maybe it is actually. But you didn't choose to do what you do at work. You're paid for something and you're tasked to do it. So if you are able to be kind of the salt and pepper, or had a little fun, doing icebreakers, role plays, a little games at work, you can maybe be the story that people will bring outside work and talk with their family and friends and make their life different and impact the company at a broader level. So try to be that different. And so if you're mindful about what you can give, that you're able to understand people, that tailor the communication you have with them, that you're strategic about it and answering the big problems that your company is facing, and that you're being able to do it with fun and creativeness, then I think you can scale leadership. Thank you.